The Cuban Missile Crisis occurred in October of 1962 and lasted for 13 days. It was the closest the world had ever come to nuclear conflict. It began on October 14th when Air Force operated U-2 scanned Cuba and found medium-range and intermediate-range missiles given to them by the Soviet Union. President JFK met with his advisors and officials in a group known as XCOM to discuss how they should handle the finding of the Soviet missiles just 90 miles south of Florida. They came up with a variety of different options, including bombing the missile sites and invading Cuba. However, it was decided to create a naval blockade. JFK sent the U.S. Navy to establish a blockade or quarantine of the island to prevent the Soviets from delivering additional missiles and military equipment. Second, he would deliver an ultimatum that the existing missiles be removed. On October 22nd, the president notified the American public of the existence of the missiles and explained his decision to quarantine Cuba, as well as made it clear that the United States will react with militaristic force if necessary. On October 24th, Soviet ships bound for Cuba neared the blockade. Any attempts by the Soviets to breach the blockade would certainly lead to the promising military confrontation, which would quickly lead to a nuclear exchange. However, the ships stopped just short of the blockade. On October 26, Kennedy told his advisors that only an invasion of Cuba would remove the missiles. However, he would give the diplomatic challenge a bit more time. The night of the 26th, Kennedy received a letter from Khrushchev promising a deal. The Soviets would remove their missiles if the United States did not invade Cuba. The next day, the White House received another letter from Khrushchev saying that the United States must also remove their missiles from Turkey. Later that day, a U-2 jet was shot down over Cuba. Kennedy and his advisors prepared for war as they searched for a diplomatic solution. Attorney General Robert Kennedy met in secret with the Soviet ambassador. He indicated that the United States had planned on removing the missiles from Turkey and would do so soon, but it would not be part of the public resolution of the missile crisis. On October 22nd, Khrushchev issued a public announcement that the Soviet missiles would be removed from Cuba. This crisis was over, but the naval quarantine continued until the Soviets agreed to remove their Il-28 bombers from Cuba, and on November 20th, 1962, the United States ended up in quarantine. U.S. Jupiter missiles were removed from Turkey on April 1963. The crisis stands as one of the most effective events throughout the Cold War. First of all, it strengthens Kennedy's image internationally and domestically. It was also established a direct telephone line from the White House to the Kremlin and was known as the hotline. And finally, had been on the brink of nuclear war, made each superpower rethink the nuclear arms race and brought them closer to the Nuclear Test Ban Treaty.